Please welcome Darius Marder.
Well, thank you, Abigail, and thanks to Adapt Community Network. So I befriended Misha Collins in 7th grade. I befriended him. I went after him. I wanted this. And, you know, at the time, I was aware that, of course, a strong social bond could lower my cortisol and improve my immune function and act as a buffer against loneliness. But my main objective in befriending Misha was obviously to improve my own social standing later in life. And people around me were very skeptical about my enthusiasm about Misha, because, by the way, this is a speech to introduce Misha Collins. They were skeptical. He wasn't the obvious target at the time, and I was warned that my investment was maybe a gamble. But I was steadfast. I stuck with it. I wanted to invest in this friend. And the first decade was honestly quite slow. He, in his 20s, Misha Collins, you know, did not quite what I thought he would do. He went out and started a summer camp for inner city kids. He was raising money for all sorts of organizations and using his, and trying to help people, and this was all fine, I guess. And then following an earthquake in Haiti, Misha created this foundation called Random Acts, which had the aim of mobilizing communities around the world and turning compassion into action. And I was like, yeah, but how is this helping me? I mean, it was growing to millions of supporters who were volunteering their time and energy to strengthen their communities. There were certainly signs of promise in this investment that I had made in Misha Collins. But I wasn't sure if it was really going to pay off. And then in 2008, he becomes Castiel on Supernatural. And this is and I'm thinking, this is a liquidity event. This is the windfall. This is what I did this for. It wasn't so simple, actually. He then takes this stardom and he starts directing it toward helping other people again. And he creates this thing called Gishwez, which is the world's largest global scavenger hunt. And he infuses millions of minds with this idea that even small acts of kindness can ripple outward in extraordinary ways. Again, I wasn't sure how this was helping me and what I could do with this. It wasn't the obvious asset that I was in this game for, but I couldn't ignore the reality or the thought that I was probably behind much of this do-gooding, and this, you know, I'm sure that my support in Misha had a lot to do with all of. I didn't mention it though. It's kind of like Liev said, you know, I look outward. I look at other things. I didn't need to draw attention to myself, but it kept growing. And when Misha worked with Adapt, led by Guido Ortenzio, to provide coats to 1,200 children with disabilities and their families, I said nothing. I didn't even mention it. And when he supported Dancescape in South Africa, which created a safe place for underprivileged children, I didn't draw attention to myself again. His trips to Ukraine in support of demining technology, I maintained a dignified silence. But, you know, something was happening. And I'm looking at this friend of mine, and he's actually transforming the world. And it wasn't optics. It was real. And it became clear to me that with Misha, it just didn't stop with the public work. He was showing up consistently, quietly, for the people in his life and for strangers. And he showed up for me in ways over the years that I have come to realize I couldn't possibly live without. I started to have this weird, kind of disturbing thought that maybe I wasn't investing in Misha, maybe Misha was investing in me. That's obviously not true, but I say it to make a point that this investment of mine in Misha Collins, I freaking nailed it. So it's really with great joy and satisfaction that I get to, as Misha's friend, stand here with such pride to present my project, Misha Collins, with the ADAPT Community Partnership Award tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, Misha Collins.
Hi. These have been such great speeches tonight. It's really hard to rise to the occasion. The last time I saw Darius in a suit was at the Oscars, where I was his guest, and he had directed a film that was nominated for 6 Oscars that night and won 2. And Liev, like you and Jonathan, were very competitive, and it's nice to be able to stand up here tonight and say, I won. Your silly little Oscar stunt is in the rearview mirror here, my friend. I was talking to Liev at the beginning of this event, and we were talking about the trips that both of us have made to Ukraine. We're raising funds with President Zelensky, helping them fight off this terrible war. And we both noted that we had been there at the beginning of the war, and again shortly after that. And I was reflecting on the fact that it was so easy in the beginning, when it was headline news all the time, to raise money for Ukraine. They raised almost $5 billion in the first year of the invasion. And now that is, of course, slowed to a trickle because it's not headline news anymore. It's not front and center in people's minds. And we are so often just captivated by the headline of the moment. And I was reflecting on this incredible organization, ADAPT, which, as Jim mentioned, has been around for 80 years, quietly doing work that makes no headlines and sustaining year after year and growing from just serving a few families back in 1946 to now servicing 20,000 individuals every year. It's this monumental, quiet, determined achievement that is so inspiring and so incredible. I was thinking about that incredible feat of sustaining when you're not in the headlines. And I was asking myself, what is it? What is it that keeps that going? And Jim took me on a tour of one of ADAPT's facilities. And it was on a slightly busy day for me. And I was surprised to learn that he had allotted over 2 hours for my tour, because I had sort of budgeted about 30 minutes. And as the tour went on, Jim said, would you like to go see the performers? They're having a rehearsal now. It's the performers that you all saw up here on the stage singing Lion King earlier. And I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to meet a director in a little bit, but yeah, sure, let's go check it out real quick. And we went down the hall, and there was this large room, this windowless room at the end of the corridor. And I saw the room absolutely radiating with joy. These theater and music teachers and these aides that were standing on the sides, cheering these performers on, bringing them such joy and hope and community and satisfaction. And I thought about this award and this evening, and I thought, they're the ones that deserve these awards. These teachers, these aides, these people who are devoting their lives There are 3,000 people who work at ADAPT now, and they're all people who have chosen not to give on a given night, not to make a donation, but they've chosen to devote their lives to serving others. They've chosen an identity as people who help others. That's what they do for their vocation, and that's who they are as people. And I stayed through one song, and then I stayed through another song, and I was an audience of one, and I left that building crying that morning, and deeply gratified, filled with gratitude at the lesson that I'd learned in that windowless corridor. So thank you for the inspiration, and I would invite all of you to take that inspiration as well, to ask yourselves the question, how can I be a person who helps others? Not just show up one time and have an action, but how can that be my identity? Because the more people that think of themselves that way and show up in the world that way, the better world we're going to have. Thank you all.